तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। Start the class with the prayer, Saranavati. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sah Viryam Taravavahai Tejasvinavadhinamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so we are at chapter 2, verse 12 and 16. Exactly. Okay. So I'll just give you a recap because it's very important that you understand that what exactly is the vision of Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta, which is reference to nature of I. Okay. It's a complete paradigm shift, right? Because generally anything that we have heard is retaining my individuality as this, and then within that, whatever I can adjust, whatever I can better, that's what we do. That's what we are used to. Now, the vision of Lord Krishna is that this Atma, as we saw in chapter 12, in the verse 12 of chapter 2, there was never a time that I was not, there was never a time I will not be. And not only I, but everybody else. So that means the way we understand ourselves, how do we understand? We have a birth date, and then what? We have a limited existence in time. So this is how we understand. So if we were to understand what Lord Krishna is talking about, then we need to re-examine what is our true nature. Okay? Now what happens is, very often we all have heard a little bit about you are Satchidananda Atma. You know, if you come from this tradition, or Atma is immortal, it is it is Achyuta, means it doesn't get affected by anything. But these are all the words that we have somehow heard earlier, but we don't quite know what it means. Okay? So that means, now the whole teaching methodology is that it's not to give you some words of which you have no understanding, but it makes you see how it is so. When it makes you see how it is so, it's a completely different understanding. Those meanings of those words are unfolded for you to see your true nature. Okay? So in order to see your true nature, we use a methodology. Okay? And what is the methodology that we used? We used a methodology called Drik and Drishya. Okay? So what is Drishya? Drishya is something which is seen by me. And what is Drik?
Person.
The person who sees everything. Okay? So now, how do you use this methodology? With reference to this sofa or this table or this chair, you don't have any confusion with reference to whether it belongs to Drik category or Drishya category. Which category does it belong to? Drishya. It's something which is seen by you. And what is the law? Something which is seen by you, do you take on the characteristics of something that is seen by you? You never do. No matter how close it is, you don't take on the characteristics of something which is seen by you. Now, where is the confusion? The confusion starts with this body. Okay. Now, where do I generally put it? In Drik category or Drishya category? I put it in Drik category. Now, what Vedanta says is, as long as you put it in Drik category, you are mortal. Right? And you are limited. There is no way to get rid of this limitation. But if you want to really understand your true nature, you need to examine whether it legitimately belongs to Drik category or it belongs to Drishya category.
So explain Drik category again.
Okay, Drik we have not seen. First what we are doing is whether body is Drishya or Drik. Right? Now, this physical body is something which is seen by you. Like this chair is seen by you, this table is seen by you, the body is seen by you. Okay? Different conditions of this body are also known to you. If you were the different conditions, who is the observer of the different conditions? Okay? So therefore, this physical body, actually we take it as what? Drik category, but actually it belongs to which category? Drishya. Right? So now, if I am suffering from limitation of the body as limitation of I am making a very fundamental mistake. Okay. So as long as I correct this mistake, the limitation is always going to be, no matter how much you try to better your body, how much you try to keep it healthy, how much you try to kind of prolong the life, you are still always going to be limited. Okay? What Vedanta says is that this physical body, in fact, belongs to Drishya category. Okay? Now, how is it so? One thing is to see that I see all, from the time that I was born till now, how many changes have taken place. Infinite number of changes have taken place, and who are you? You come to know that when I was young, I was like this, and now I am what? are great, my eye capacity has deteriorated. So all these different changing conditions of the body are known by you. So therefore, you are the observer and you are not the observed. So the body belongs to the observed category. Okay. Now here, the discoveries of science also makes it very easy for us to understand what Vedanta is saying, because you ask any doctor and they'll tell you this body is nothing but cells. And you know very well that one cell is not you. You actually, what do? You observe the cell under what? Microscope. Okay? Now if one cell is not you, billions of cells coming together to make it into some kind of an intelligent being, does it become I? No. Okay? So that means you are free from what? This, already free, right? Already free from the limitation of the body. Now, one thing is very important to understand, that if we are free from the body, why is it that universally we make this mistake that I am as good as the body? It's not just one person making the mistake, it's everybody making that mistake. So why is everybody making that mistake? That is because among all the different bodies, with reference to that body, for me it's an object. I don't have any problem. It's only with one body I take it as a subject. I don't take all the bodies as subject. I take only one body as subject. Why? Because I have a special relationship with only one body. So that means that if it aches, my stomach aches, or my throat is sore, then what? You don't feel it, it's only I who feel it. Okay? So therefore, we make this universal mistake because among all the different bodies, we do have a special relationship with only one body. Like among all the different houses, you have a special relationship with one house. Among all the different cars, you do have a special relationship with one car or 2 cars or 5 cars that you own. Okay? So that means there is a special relationship that we don't deny. But because there is a special relationship, you take it as I is a mistake. Imagine the house you start taking as I. No. It is something that you have a special relationship with it, and there is nothing wrong in keeping it well, to have a nice house. See, 1 minute when you say that you are not the body, doesn't mean you have to be indifferent to your body. Please understand that. You have a special relationship with this body and you can take care of it, you can beautify it, it's all fine. But don't take on its characteristics as your characteristics, because you are suffering for something which doesn't deserve suffering. It's an asset which is given to you, and you have to use it judiciously and you have to use it well, but don't take on its limitation as limitation of Now, where is the second sense of I? And this is something which is very important, because in Vedanta class, you may understand that I am not as good as the body. Okay? But when you go out there, okay, a lot of these conclusions which are so deep-rooted, right? Sometimes the inadequacies that we feel centered on our body, everybody in this new generation, everybody feels I'm fat. Okay? And suffers not only from sense of being fat, but low self-esteem. So that means so much of your I is connected, and so much of your self-image is connected to what? The condition of the body. So that means if Vedanta were to be assimilated, you need to re-examine all these assumptions that you have, and you need to undo them in order to discover the freedom. Otherwise what happens is, on one hand you can understand cognitively that I am not the body, but on the other hand you continue to what? Have all these kind of complexes without even integrating the two. Okay? That's why teaching of Vedanta takes time to assimilate, because we have lived with so many assumptions which were based on such a wrong understanding. So when we undo those wrong understanding, we need to re-look at all the assumptions also and re-understand the world, right? So this is why Vedanta takes time. Now, the second thing that we have a huge sense of I with is what? With reference to your mind. Your mind. Now, again, one has to see the relationship between I and the mind. What is mind? Mind is nothing but series of thoughts. Okay? Now, are you the thoughts or are you the observer of thoughts? You are the observer of the thoughts. So that means in one day, how many thoughts you have?
60,000 thoughts.
Yeah, 60,000. Yeah, exactly, almost 60,000. So from the time that you were born till the time that now you are, how many different thoughts you had? Innumerable thoughts, right? Are any of those thoughts sticking to you right now? No. That means you are already free from all the different thoughts that you have thought of. Because otherwise, if you were the thoughts, all the thoughts that you have thought of up to now would all be sticking to you. You can't get rid of them. If that's your intrinsic nature, you can't get rid of it. Okay? So now, Vedanta is showing a very intricate relationship between what? The mind and I. Because all of us live thinking that I am as good as what? The condition of my mind. So that means, and the mind, which is just thoughts, why we universally take it as I? Because the thoughts are not just random thoughts, they are highly well organized thoughts. They are falling within 4 categories. Okay. We saw that last time. What did we see? The first aspect or the first function of mind is what we call manas, which means what? The emoting mind. Emoting mind is when you interact with the world, when you see situations, you are not blank, it evokes certain kind of emotion in you. Okay. So that means that emotion is actually nothing but a thought. Please understand that. That's why it goes. So this emoting mind is and that is something which is, please don't think about emotion as something which is your enemy or anything. Emotive mind is a very useful mind. Imagine if we did not have emotions, we'll all be like roaming around like robots. Okay? Please don't take emotions as something which is a problem. It is not a problem. But distorted emotions are a problem and we need to fix those distortions so you can have enhancing emotions, right? So that is one thing which is an emoting mind. What is the second function that the mind has? We said manas, and the second one was buddhi. What is buddhi? Buddhi is your cognitive capacity. Okay? So in addition to all the emotions, when you go to school and you go to what? Physics class, you go to mathematics class, you go to economics class, you go to any class, and the teacher is showing you, starting from primary school, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Are you using your emotive mind to understand that? No. What is the mind? That function or the faculty that you are using is what we call our cognitive capacity or intellect. Okay? So therefore, this is something is starting from 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 to what? E is equal to mc squared, relativity of time and space. This is all the range that your cognitive capacity can figure out. Okay? Not only physics, but you have art, dance, all this is in some ways, everything learned, all the knowledge that is learned is all part of your cognitive capacity and it has a wide range. When you are listening to Vedanta and you are trying to understand and trying to discriminate between what is I and what is not I, which capacity are you using? Yeah, you are using your cognitive capacity. You are using your capacity to understand and to discriminate. This is why, even though Vedanta says that you are much more than the mind, but you need the mind to understand this reality. And you need a sharp mind to understand this reality.
So how is art and dance related to that?
So art and dance, because everything is learned. in music, for example, right, when you have to render a raga, it is highly intricate. In fact, there is a friend of mine who's teaching mathematics in New Zealand, and she says that the world is full of mathematics. When the artist, when the musician is rendering raga with amazing precision, okay, there is a lot of harmony. Why does it produce these sounds which are so harmonious? Because there is a lot of calculation involved. If you just produce random sounds, it will not produce this harmony. When you are doing a painting, okay, there is a space, and within that how you organize different colors and all, there is a lot of implicit knowledge involved. Because if you and I do it, it may not produce the effect that an artist does. So your cognitive capacity is very varied. Please don't think it's only mathematics or it's only physics. You are capturing certain patterns and you are using it, right, in a harmonious way. That's an amazing capacity for a human mind to capture certain patterns and to render those patterns, which creates beauty, aesthetics, and okay. So that is what we call the cognitive capacity. It includes a range of things. Okay. What is the third function of the mind? Memory. Okay. In Sanskrit we call it chitta. That, if you had each thought and they just came and went, there would actually be no continuity in life. Why do we live with a certain sense of identity? That is because we have memory. Okay? So that means that any time, in fact, our capacity to retrieve any given memory is what? Itself is something which is not entirely up to us. You go to the exam and everything that you have studied, sometimes you can recall or sometimes you can forget. Okay? But that faculty is something which is there with you, and this is what we call memory. That gives us continuity and that also connects us to the past. And therefore, that connection is something which is very essential, because if you did not have memory, then anything that you learned 1 minute, you will forget the next minute. You have to keep on relearning everything.
I was just reflecting on this subject last time you touched on it.
Yes.
And I couldn't come to terms with the fact that if I don't have a memory,
yeah,
I don't have a past.
You do have a past, but you have no recollection of the past. You do have a past, but you have no recollection. And if you don't have a recollection, because we draw so much from what we have learned in the past. Okay? So it's like, imagine the person who has Alzheimer. The person has past, but the person has no recollection of the past. So therefore the person forgets how to what? Open the drawer. Because that faculty is not there. But it doesn't mean that the person did not have past. It does have. But the faculty is not. Right?
Now there's a very famous chant, I forget, it's branching now that we're talking about.
The famous chant
Of this Manbuddhi, and this what is it called?
This is called this Adi Shankaracharya's
But there's a name to it.
yeah, there is
It's called Atmashtakam.
Atmashtakam. Yeah. There is a very famous, it's beautiful. Yeah.
In some ways we are also attached, just reflecting. In some ways we are also attached to our past. Because the sadness we feel with sometimes, we see somebody with Alzheimer's, that they cannot recognize their past, means that in some ways we also believe that our past is us. There's some sense of identity over there.
Yeah, see, the thing is that generally we think that the past is a problem. Actually, past is not a problem. Okay? I mean, past can be a problem or past need not be a problem. Itself is what it is, right? And so everything that you have learned, now you go to work, and that you are able to come up with certain decisions is because what? All the knowledge that you have gained in the past. You are drawing from that knowledge to make the decisions, right? So past you can't categorically say is a problem. memory you can't categorically say is a problem because it serves a very useful function. But if you get caught, I just met a woman just 2 days ago, and her father passed away 9 years ago, and she's still, and I think she carries some guilt with reference to, that morning her father went to a park for walking and she took her mom to see some concert or something, and then father while walking collapsed. So she still carries the guilt of, why did I never take my mom. That day I took my mom and she was not with him and she could not help him, and therefore, that she kind of holds herself responsible, and that memory is totally stuck. She can't get out of it, she breaks down. So this is where we say that memory then becomes a problem when we are not able to handle that memory adequately. So what we are trying to do is not to eliminate memory, not to eliminate past, but what? Use it.
Or get unstuck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, use it with wisdom. Okay? It's an asset which is given to us. We are not giving this whole thing, forget about the past, because the past is a very essential part of who you are. Okay? What we are saying is that use that faculty of memory that you have with wisdom, because it can pose a problem if you don't know how to handle it. So this is, but essentially you are even not the memories. Right? That is what that Atma is talking about. Okay? And the fourth function that the mind has is what we call ahankara. Ahankara is a very technical word. It does not mean ego. Okay? Because if it means ego, then you feel that what you need to eliminate the ego. We are not talking about eliminating ego or anything. We are just talking about a function of the mind. Okay? So what is this ahankara? In Sanskrit, it means aham is I and kara means the sense of I. So that means that there are thoughts. You not only have emotions, you not only you understand things, okay? Not only you have memories, your I sense or I thought gets connected to what each of the three functions of your mind. So that means when you see something, not only there is emotion of sadness, what do you say? I am sad. So that means that I thought has got connected to what? The emotion that is happening at that given point in time. 5 minutes ago, somebody makes you laugh and what do you say? I'm happy. So again what? That I thought has got connected to a changed emotion. So this is why this I thought keeps getting connected to what? Your emotions. The I thought also keeps getting connected to what? Your cognitive capacity. How? Because when you understand 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 or E is equal to MC square, what do we say? I am intelligent. Okay? So your I sense also gets connected to your cognitive capacity. Then your I sense also gets connected to your memory. This is why, as Anjali says, it leads to sometimes a lot of sadness. Because some memories that we hold are not very pleasant and your I sense gets connected to that. But do they get stuck to us? No. No matter how difficult that memory is, it will pass. Because no thought can stay with you for a very long time. Even if no thought, in fact, what is the duration of one thought? Seconds. Right? If the thought is only staying with you for seconds, why do we have such a sense of stable I into all these different thoughts, which are changing all the time? Because your I sense, what? Every time, whether it is emoting or it is cognitive mode or it is memory mode, your I sense is always connected. So it seems like one continuous entity. That's what gives ahankara the reality that it doesn't have. Okay? Because your I sense constantly, with one faculty or the other, it keeps getting connected. And that's what, when I ask you, who are you? A lot of description that you give will be reference to what?
Roles.
Yeah, all these three things. Combination of all these three things. Okay. Now, what Vedanta says is, even this ahankara, we are not talking about eliminating it. It's a very important function. Because unless you have that I sense, you cannot do anything. Now, today, right now, you say, okay, after the class, I'm going to go to my office. That I thought is there or not? Can you eliminate that I thought? You can't eliminate. What does Vedanta make you understand is, it is there, but it is not the real you. That's all. Once you understand that, then what? You don't need to physically eliminate anything. You just need to understand that I am much more than this entity that I think myself to be. It's just cognitive understanding of what is I and what is not I. Okay? So this whole manas, which has all these four functions, which give you your sense of identity, in which category Vedanta puts it? In Drishya category and not in Drik category. Because thoughts are variable, they come and go, and whether they are thoughts related to emotions or intellect or memory or the I sense, which is mixed with all the three of them, they are all variable. They keep changing. Then who are you? All this is Drishya. Initially, what is the problem? The body and mind, which is only your body and mind, you took it as Drik, the seer, and everything else you took it as Drishya. Now what does Vedanta do? Even your body and mind, it puts it in Drishya category. So now, the question is, what is Drik? What is the nature of mind? This is where, exactly.
Of all these things.
Yeah, exactly. So, what Vedanta or Gita says is, I am Atma. This Atma is what Tushar says as awareness. In Sanskrit, it means Chit. Right? It is the word. Either there are two ways, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, or Sat, Chit, Ananda, as Bhagavad says. Right? This is both meaning exactly the same. Okay? Now, awareness is correct. How did you come to the fact that you are awareness, Usha?
Because I am aware that I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect.
Excellent. Right? So that means I am aware of, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not. That awareness is something that you cannot eliminate. While you are observing different conditions of the body, while you are observing different conditions of the mind, there is one invariable presence that you cannot eliminate, and that is awareness. Okay? Now, that awareness, being Drik, being the seer, does it ever take on the characteristics of something which is seen by you? Never. So that means it is intrinsically free from conditions of the body and mind. It's already free. This is what it says. I am Atma, right now is Brahman. It's not that right now it is bound and then you have to do something to free it. It is already free. Okay. Then the question comes, if I am awareness, which is independent of the body and mind, then last time we asked this question, how many awareness? How many? One. Right. Now, because last time there was a debate. Okay? There are many awareness, because if I am independent of my body and mind, and I am awareness, he is independent of his body and mind, she is independent of his body and mind, then it seems to us as though there are what? As many body and mind there are, that many awarenesses there are. This is where what Vedanta says is that this Chit is what? Anantam. It is not, if it was one pocket, would it be limitless? No. Why? Because there are many pockets and each one is different from the other, and it will all become what? Limited. Because mine is only mine and not yours. So here, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Okay, Anantam means it is limitless. So now, how do we understand that awareness is not many, but it's only one? We have a logic. Okay, what is the logic? That once I have said that this physical body is not I and this mind is not I, what attribute I will give to my awareness which will distinguish it from your awareness? In order for me to make the statement that there are two awarenesses, I have to show you one awareness is this quality and the other awareness is that quality, therefore two awarenesses are different. But all the qualities, where do they belong? To the body and to mind. In the awareness, there is no attribute. Okay? Because there is no attribute, you cannot postulate that there are different awarenesses. Okay? It is one undivided whole. This is what you say, Chit is Sat, it is there, it is existent. Don't think that because if you are not the body and mind, don't think that you don't exist. You are Sat, you are existent, you are awareness, but that awareness is what? Ananta, limitless. How do we comprehend this? And for understanding this, we have a very useful methodology. Okay? Now we use this methodology to show that apparently there could be many, but actually it's only one. Okay. So now here, let's take, okay. Now, there is a bottle here, and this is what? Bottle space. This is this bottle, and this is bottle space. Then there is room space. Then there is what? Vase space. Okay. So it seems as though, how many spaces are there? Several spaces. In reality, how many spaces are there? It's only one space. One undivided space. So why do I then call it bottle space? Exactly. There is a form which seems to confine the space visually. But in reality, does it confine the space? Does it divide space? It does not. Okay. When you move this bottle from here to here, are you moving the bottle space? No. This is physics. The bottle is moving in space. Okay. So this is what seems to be divided. Now come back to yourself. Your awareness is almost like, we are not yet talking, it's not exactly. It is like space seems to be confined to what? The body. Yeah. Seems to be confined with the body. And what happens? That awareness which is there, it takes on the characteristic of the body and mind as its own characteristic, and whole life we suffer from limitation. What does Gita show us? That awareness is always, it is Satyam, it is Jnanam, and it is Ananda. Okay? So it frees it from the limitation. It is as though confined, but in reality it is not confined. There is a kind of an as though enclosure. That's what fools us. Okay. So this is where, this is the nature of Atma. Okay. So now, this is verse 12. The nature of Atma is, if you now understand that you are awareness, when the body comes into being, has awareness, when the bottle comes into being, has the space come into being? Space was always there. The bottle is destroyed. Is the space going to be destroyed? while the bottle is there, is the space undergoing any difference based on whether you put water here or wine here or what? Juice here? No. The space always remains untouched by anything. This is what we mean by Atma is not born. There is never a time that if you put your eye in awareness, Sat-Chit Ananda, there was never a time it was not. There was never a time it will not be. And there is never a time it is ever affected by whatever is happening within the body and mind. Minds are different. Awareness is never touched by whatever happens in the mind. It is always pure. We are not talking about something being impure and doing something to make it pure. In the vision of Veda, Atma is Achyuta. Achyuta means it's never affected by anything. These are the words that we use. If you listen to classical music, you will have all these Satchidananda, Achyuta, Amar, all these words you have, and you keep on singing it and you have no idea. You listen to it, but you don't know what it means and how it is so. Here, the whole traditional teaching is such that it makes you see this reality as you, not just acquire some ideas and words. Okay. Now, the next verse, which is another thing, which you think that now I kind of understand what the nature of Atma is. Now, there is a further requirement which needs to be made, which is done in the next verse. Okay? What is the next verse? I will chant and you will chant after me. Okay? Nasato vidyate bhavaha. Nabhavo vidyate sataha. Ubayorapi drishtontaha. Tvadayostattvadarshibihi. Okay. So Tattvadarshibihi. Sorry? We kind of did it. We touched where we started it. Right? So what we say is Tattvadarshibihi means by the knowers of the truth. Okay? What they understand is Na asataha bhavaha vidyate. Okay? Asat does not exist and Sat never ceases to exist. Okay? Never ceases to exist. Okay? So now, what is Sat and what is Asat? We need to understand. Okay? Sat in Vedanta is defined as that which is Satya. Okay? And Asat is not generally, when we say Asat, what do we, non-existent. Right? Generally what Asat means, which does not exist. So what is that? Man's form does not exist. But here, when he uses the word Asat, he does not use it in the sense of non-existent. What he uses is in the sense of Mithya. Okay? So now, we need to understand what did we do first. We created two categories. One is Drik and the other one is Drishya. Okay? Drishya includes what? Something which is seen by me. What does it include? It includes time, it includes space, it includes all the bodies, it includes galaxies, it includes sun, moon, stars, everything. Okay. Now, what Lord Krishna is saying is something even more fun, radical. He says, all this time, space, objects, they themselves are asat, they are mithya. And the only Sat is what? Awareness. My God, you guys are very smart.
You made us smart.
Okay. How do we understand that there are not even two categories anymore. First you create two categories, then what do you say?
It's not there.
Yeah. The second category doesn't exist, it's a mithya. How do you understand that the whole drishya world is mithya? You start with a simple inquiry. You start with this little table here. Okay? So, if you tell me, or what do you say, Anjali, what is this object here? Table. Okay, so that's good. And I say it's wood. Now, who is right? Both are right, but both cannot be equally right. Why? Because if I tell you that, okay, if you think it's table and if I think it's wood, let me take away the wood and you take the table. What will you be left with? Nothing. Right? So therefore, both are right from a given standpoint, but we are not totally absolutely right. What is the relationship between wood and table? Are they two totally different objects? No. They are not. Exactly. There is a form and then there is a content. Right? So the form, what Vedanta or Gita says, is mithya. Why is it mithya? Mithya is defined as that which has dependent reality. The table, when we are saying asat, we don't mean it is illusion. Please don't. People unfortunately have not understood what this Indian philosophy is talking about. They make world into an illusion. We are not talking about illusion. We are talking about dependent reality. Okay. So that means that this, it's true, empirically it's true. We are not saying it's an illusion. If it was not, it was an illusion, I would not be able to what? Put my books on it, put my bottles on it, and it will, you know, whatever it can contain is dependent upon what? The surface it has. All this is empirically true. Okay? But in terms of reality, it has no real existence because it entirely depends upon wood for its existence. So that means before the table came,
Wood had to be there.
had to be there. While the table exists,
Wood exists.
wood exists. When the table is destroyed, wood is still there. Right? So that means, and while the wood is appearing as table, does it take on the characteristic of the table? No. This is what we call transcendence. Please understand, we are not talking about transcendence as something going away and going up there and away from anything. In and through it, and at the same time, free from the characteristic. Mithya depends upon Satyam, and Satyam is what? Free from Mithya, the characteristics of Mithya. Okay. Now, if table is Mithya, is wood really the Satyam? Does it have totally independent existence or it also has a dependent existence? It has a dependent existence. What does it depend upon? Yeah, exactly. So this is where the quantum physics helps us a lot. Okay, up to now we've been using all these different 5 elements model and you know how everything is coming from Akasha, Vayu, our job is made very simple by discoveries of quantum physics. It says that what? This wood is nothing but what? Atoms in some ways. Okay. Now that means that without atoms, will there be a wood? No. Atoms, while pervading the wood, do they take on the characteristics of the wood? No. This is reality. Okay, so that means the wood itself now is mithya. And what becomes satyam? Atoms. Now the atoms themselves are what? Nothing but particles. Okay? So now atoms which we thought were Satyam, now it is also Mithya. And what is there is particles. Now particles themselves, the scientists, what do? They try to find out the truth of the particles also. So then they come up with quarks. And at that given point in time, what happens is there are no tangible objects anymore. They are just concepts. They are just mathematical equations. You don't see any object anymore. Because at a quantum level, one thing you cannot categorically say whether it is a wave or a particle. What they say is it depends upon the intention of the observer. If you want to measure the mass, it acts like what? Particle. If you want to measure the speed, it actually behaves like a wave. So there is no one categorical object anymore after particles. It's all just concepts. Okay. What does Vedanta say? That this concept, right, which is not something which is now, there is no material anymore, it is just a concept. Now re-examine the relationship between, so that means the whole world has become now, yeah, exactly, because it's, if you take the table, it is what? Forms within forms, within forms, within forms, ultimately just a concept. Now you take the sun. It's the same. You take the galaxies. It is the same. You take what? You take trees. You take human body. Any object that you observe in this universe is what? Yeah.
The whole universe is
Mithya. This is what, in the Upanishad Vakyam, if you remember, Atma Satyam, what?
Jagat
Mithya. Exactly. Whole Jagat, which constitutes all the different forms, they can be reduced to, on one hand you can say empirically true, but in terms of reality, it is what? Just nothing but concepts. If they are nothing but concepts, then now the final thing is, what is the relationship between awareness and concept? Awareness, chit, which is what you are, and the concept, which is Satyam and which is Mithya.
Are you trying to confuse us?
No.
I am.
Satyam which stands in the past, present, and future remain the same.
Yeah, exactly. So that means Satyam, which is what? Awareness, which remains same in past, present and future. That may be true, but now we have reduced the entire universe to nothing but concepts. And who are you? Awareness. Now you need to find out what is the relationship between awareness and concepts, right? Because entire drishya you have reduced to concepts. And who are you? Awareness. So you need to find out the relationship between awareness and concepts. I'm not trying to confuse you. What is the relationship?
It's a creative intelligence, you create forms and concepts.
Yeah, exactly. So that is Ishvara, but we are right now just seeing the relationship between Jagat and awareness, which is Atma. Right? That will come. That will come a little bit later. Now, examine, can the concept exist without awareness?
You are the seer. Seer and
The concept cannot exist without awareness. Does awareness need concept for it to exist? No. Exactly. It is without, because of which concepts come and concepts go. So that Sat is which one? Awareness. Abhavaha na vidyate. There is never a time that this awareness that you are is displaced. And asataha bhavaha na vidyate. The whole jagat is mithya. It has no independent existence from this sat. So that means you are not only the awareness which pervades all the forms, but all the forms what depend upon you for their existence. How do you comprehend something like that? Now, this is where comes the non-duality. Non-duality means what? All that is here is one. Everything else that is there in the universe depends upon awareness, and awareness is what? Independently existing of everything else. Right? If you count, let's say there are bottles, 1, 2, how many bottles are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Now, if you count the bottles, how many are there? 7 here. But if you count the plastic, how many? It's only 1, because that's the content. It is appearing in what? Different shapes. Same way, all these different forms, they are forms within forms, within forms. They ultimately resolve in Sat Chit Ananda Atma. Whereas Atma is independent of everything. Pervading everything, it is free from whatever it pervades. Because the relationship between Satyam and Mithya is such that Mithya depends upon Satyam. Satyam pervading Mithya, it is free from the characteristic. Now, the only thing that is remaining, all the objects are Mithya. What about time and space itself, within which all the objects exist? Again, physics has helped us a lot. Newtonian physics was based on the understanding that time and space is absolute, and within which what all the objects exist. Einstein, few years ago, found out what? That the time and space itself is what? Relative. When he found it out, it was such a big discovery for him that he said that the ground on which I am standing is now beginning to shake. Because something which was for centuries thought of as something which is absolute is now itself relative. This famous theory of relativity, what does it show? This time and space itself, how do you understand that? I think it's interstellar, right? Yeah. You see simple experiments that there is this very famous experiment of the space travel of one of the twins. Okay? One twin stays on Earth and the other goes on a space travel. Okay? Now, they both don't age equally. When you are out of the Earth's atmosphere, the time is experienced very differently. It is based on the speed at which you are traveling. Okay? So therefore, after let's say 100 years, when that twin comes back, this person who's on Earth has aged a lot more than the one who's traveling on a spaceship. So that means that the time is not all equal everywhere. It is actually dependent upon the speed at which you are traveling. And that is something which is very, very visible. But even, for example, there are experiments that you do that on Earth also it is relative, but it is such minute changes that they are not observable. Okay? But there are some experiments that, let's say you're dropping 3 things all at this so-called everything is all at the same time. And you are in the center and you're observing all 3. What will you see?
The heaviest will fall down.
You will see that they are all falling
At the same time.
simultaneously. Right? Now imagine you're traveling from this direction to this direction. Which one you will see first falling?
First one.
First one. Exactly. And if you're traveling from this direction, impact. So that means it really depends upon where you are, the point at which you are, and from where you are observing. This relativity of time is something which is very useful for Vedanta. Even before all these discoveries came, we always thought of time as something which is relative. In fact, I will it's a side note, it's not something which is very important, but just as a side note, there is this whole ritual that we do that is of Shraddha. You have heard of Shraddha? We remember the people, our ancestors, right? And we do it annually. We do an annual Shraddha. And in the Vedas, there is this whole concept that when you remember them yearly, for them it is one day. What is 1 year for you is 1 day for them. So when you give them offering every year, you are actually giving them according to their time every day. Okay? So this relativity of time existed in this whole Vedic culture. And also, when we talk about Jagat being Mithya, it includes not only objects but also time and space. Okay? Just as every object reduces to concept, now let us look at the time. Vedic times, they have their own methodology to show you how time itself is Mithya. Okay. What is a time? Generally, we calculate time as what? The unit of time. So let's say we say 1 hour. Now this 1 hour is what? 60 minutes, right? So after 60 minutes, you give it a different name and you say it's an hour. Now 1 minute is how many? 60 seconds. 1 second is, yeah, milliseconds, nanoseconds. So that means just as an object is nothing but form within form within form, time is also what? Units within units within units within units, until when only a concept remains. And what is the relationship between concept and awareness? Concept is Mithya, awareness is Sat. So not only the objects are Mithya, but even the time is Mithya. What about space? Exactly, right? Generally, when we talk about space, we talk about in terms of distance, right? So that means, what is the distance between me and Nita? What do you think?
6 feet.
16?
5 feet.
3 feet. 3 feet. Okay. Now, 1 foot is how many inches? 1 inch is centimeters, right? Millimeters. And it just goes on dividing and dividing and dividing until again only a concept remains. Time is a concept, space is a concept, every object is a concept, and it all depends upon awareness. Awareness, pervading everything, making everything what it is free from the attributes of everything that happens. Weight is a concept too. Absolutely. Right? So now, and what is even more interesting is with this finite distance of what, 3 feet, if you look at in terms of points, how many points are there? Infinite points. How can infinite points create a finite distance? All concepts. Whole universe is nothing where we think it's all very real, is actually, in terms of reality, it's all just nothing but concepts. But concepts that are organized in a highly intelligent manner to bring about the universe, which is what? Seemingly so real. Right? They are not just atoms who are moving around here. They make what? Mountains, they make rivers, they make human beings, they make what? Aquatic animals, they make birds, they make amoebas, they make everything. The galaxies, sun, moon, they make everything.
So basically, someone was having a lot of fun.
Somewhere exactly. Now, absolutely. And you, if you don't understand the whole game, you're caught in it. But if you are, the minute you understand it, you're free. This is exactly what moksha is. Understand the whole thing. The whole thing, this whole game is over. In order for you to comprehend how everything is nothing but one thing, your own experience of dream is very useful. Every night, you go to sleep and you dream. And you create the dream world. You create dream time. You create dream space. You create dream world. You create dream characters. And all the interactions are taking place in the dream. Right? And those interactions are producing emotions. Okay? But the whole show, what does it depend upon?
You made it.
Yeah, your awareness. And while all that show is going on, your awareness, is it ever affected? Never. If we did not have dream experience, it would be very difficult to understand what Vedanta is talking about. But the dream experience gives us an insight into how it is so possible. Imagine while in the dream, you are looking into the dream world and looking at what is the truth of this world. While in the dream. And then you start examining Dream Mountain. What will you find? It's awareness. Dream River, awareness. Dream characters, awareness. Okay. While the whole show is going on, you can still understand that the whole thing is nothing but awareness. And while being all this, is your awareness ever affected by anything that is happening? It's good to know.
It needs you to be asleep.
Sorry?
It needs you to be asleep.
No, that's just what I'm saying is that the dream world, the existence of the dream world and the relationship of the dream world with awareness is something which is, one is totally dependent, the other one is independent. Right? I mean, here it requires you to sleep, but what I'm saying is that that experience that we have makes it very relatively easy for us to comprehend when we do the same inquiry with reference to the waking world. Okay? When we inquire into the waking world, what seems to be very real to us, it all collapses in what? In the dream world, it is your individual awareness. In the waking world, what do we discover? That awareness is something which is what?
Other than all this. So even though we are awake, we are actually asleep.
We are sleeping because of ignorance. Because we are not totally aware of what is going on. That is what they say, avidya nidra. You know, that nidra is not just sleeping, it is what? It is of ignorance. The minute you remove the veil, what you see that all that is here is one. And while you are not just this one little character in this vast scheme of things. Who are you? You are that awareness which is the truth of everything. This is what he says. That awareness is Sat. It never ceases to exist. And everything else, what? Bhavaha navidyate. Asataha bhavaha navidyate. Doesn't really exist. It entirely depends upon awareness of existence. So this is what you are. Where did you start and where Lord Krishna took you? Okay. Now, the next verse we will see next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate